Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for joining me on this week's Tell Us How to Make It Better podcast. If you've ever bought a home, you've probably had experience with a home inspector. It is a very important role that someone fills in your home buying process. Well, my guest today is a home inspector from Houston, Texas. His name is Matthew Brading, and I found him on Instagram, where he has over 130,000 followers that tune in all the time to see his videos. His main expression that he uses in a lot of videos is, "It's not supposed to do that." So you need to listen to what Matthew has to say today before you buy that next house. I'm George Siegel, and this is the Tell Us How to Make It Better podcast. Your home is probably your biggest investment, and every week we show you warning signs and solutions to help you protect it. Tell Us How to Make It Better is partnering with the Readiness Lab, the home for podcasts, webinars, and training in the field of emergency and disaster services. Matt, thank you so much for joining me today.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks for having me, George.
Yeah, I found you on Instagram months ago. You're a very busy guy, man. You're tough to get a hold of, but I'm a big fan of your videos, and they really speak to what I'm trying to talk about on my podcast. So I appreciate your time. As far as I'm concerned, I am no huge fan of the construction industry. I've had a lot of bad luck when I've built houses, and I've had a lot of frustrations. I see those with you on a daily basis. So first of all, what motivated you to become an inspector and then to go the next level and start making these videos?
Well, to become an inspector, really, I was in a completely unrelated field, and I had been for many years, and I was burnt out. I had hit the top of the pay scale, and really kind of had the dream job that I kind of always wanted with this company. And my sister-in-law suggested, she was in new home sales for many years, and then became a realtor. And when she was studying to become a realtor, or maybe it was when she became a realtor, I can't remember, she suggested to me, she said, "Have you ever thought about becoming a home inspector?" She had dealt with home inspectors through her new construction employment, and of course, obviously, as a realtor. But yeah, my sister-in-law, knowing me and kind of knowing my background of being like the guy that was always fixing stuff, the guy that always knew what was wrong, how to make repairs, things of that nature. Her knowing that about me led her to suggest becoming a home inspector. And like I say, I'd never even thought about it. Once I looked into it and realized what was going on, I was like, yeah, this is exactly, what I would love to be doing. But yeah, so that's what made me want to become a home inspector, was really her suggestion and looking into it and saying, okay, this is that kind of potential to do something else, to even if at the time it was like, even if I'm working for this other company, if I can do something else, be of service, push my potential, and make extra money, like that was something I was interested in.
And you obviously, you bring a lot of enthusiasm to your videos. So where did you go from just being an inspector to saying, now I'm going to put this on video? And you have over 132,000 followers on Instagram that watch these things on a regular basis. What made you decide to jump into that?
Well, a friend of mine, another inspector, Chris Murphy from A Action Home Inspections, actually. He was somebody that I had seen. I'd ran into some of his videos online early on whenever I was studying to become a home inspector. And one day I was sitting in a continued education class, and I sat down right next to him. And he just happened to be in the same class as me, and we're in the same town, same area of Texas. And so he just started kind of divulging some information. I would ask him questions and he would answer them, and I learned a lot from him, and we kind of, became friends. And then, after talking to him for a few months, he was like, you really should, because like I said, I found him on social media, right on like YouTube or something. And he said, you really should start posting videos on social media. It's increased my business a lot. And I thought, okay. I was kind of uncomfortable with it, but I thought, okay, well, I guess I could give it a shot. I didn't have a whole lot of faith in it. And that was probably about 2017, 2018, really, really early on in my inspection career. And I just started doing it, and it's just consistency, doing it more and more. And then I got a little bit better at it. And then one day I started to increase my following a little bit, and then it just kind of grew from there. But yeah, it was really, suggestions from other people that he was a successful home inspector, and I thought, well, I should take his advice, and so I did. Sure. And that's how this all started.
That's great. Now, I think most people way undervalue the role of the inspector. I think when people are going through the home buying process, they have to do that sometimes to get their mortgage. They have to do that to show that the house is okay. And I think most people approach it wrong. Some are even intimidated when a builder will say, I don't let that inspector on my property, or the realtor gives you a list of 5 or 6 inspectors that probably she knows or he knows will push it through. That's your last chance to really find out what it is you're buying. And people really need to embrace that and understand that, don't they?
Absolutely. Yeah. I think that, one thing that I've said about, me and Chris Murphy, the guy I was talking about, I kind of thought as I started to see this change, I thought I wanted to, and even my sister-in-law who suggested home inspection, there's this perception of inspectors, kind of who they were, what they do, almost what they look like, maybe an attitude, maybe not necessarily knowing what they're doing, not being able to chip on their shoulder, I guess, maybe. There's a lot of people that don't like inspectors, like period, not necessarily the home buyer, but people on the other end. And I kind of said, I want to change that. And I remember talking to Chris Murphy about it, about wanting to kind of change the look and the face of home inspection. I didn't even really know what it meant at the time. But what I think happened was, the transparency of showing what the job actually is on social media has changed the idea and look a little bit of home inspection on a lot of different levels. And the thing is, there's different types of inspectors, and there's different types of people that hate different types of inspectors. Like people in the construction world really dislike those inspectors that can shut down their job. And I get that, right? Like I get them not liking the type of inspector that can walk in there and be like, hey, this doesn't meet code. You're not allowed to do this until you change this or move on from this. And I've heard stories about them doing that, and like it was incorrect, like they shut down a job for something that was not correct, and it actually wasn't wrong. And so I can see that frustration, or the people that they get hung up on inspections when they're trying to do the right thing. That can be very frustrating for them. And then, I mean, there's the other end, like the selling end, where realtors where inspectors that do have that chip on their shoulder can come in there and make a really big deal out of something that's maybe not a really big deal. I mean, look, I try to report factual information, right? But I don't have anything to prove. Like I'm not trying to like justify my existence here. If I walk through there and all I found on the house was, and granted, this has never been the case, but if all I found around the house was some missing caulk around some windows, that doesn't mean like I need to blow that out of proportion and make it seem like it's a big deal. I mean, it's great, house is in great shape, but really not much wrong with it. Change the air filters and seal around the windows, but I mean, again, that never really happens. But
no,
anyway,
it doesn't. I mean, it rarely goes that way. And what I think too, though, is like I was watching a video of yours recently where you showed where they didn't do the flashing right on the roof, and they didn't caulk it. They didn't do anything right in that one section. They didn't paint it. For me, what that means is if they missed that, what else did they miss? Because that was pretty obvious. They knew that the person buying the house probably wouldn't see it, but it still shows really sloppy work. And that frustrates the hell out of me.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. I think there's always a like this thing about, and to a certain degree, we kind of get as buyers just kind of have to get over a little bit of that, right? I mean, I think hiring a professional is good here, right? Like a professional like such as myself, right? I'm not going to find everything. And I think when I do find things, it does raise that suspicion of like, hey, what are we not seeing? And I get that. And the thing is having somebody like myself that is very confident in their findings. Like if I find something that's a big deal but I don't fully know what's going on, then, I will. Sometimes you have to make that big. I don't have the authority to tell the builder, hey, you got to rip this wall open and find out what is causing said problem. But I mean, I will write it up as, a problem and maybe some unknowns about it. There's certain things that we have to kind of accept. Okay. I had a video recently where I found this is a prime example. I found a styrofoam cup that had, I guess, been thrown in the pour site when they were pouring the slab foundation.
I saw
And
that video. Yep.
yeah, it was all the way over to the edge of the form. So when they pulled the forms off, you had the styrofoam cup, and I poked the hole through it, pulled the straw out, and everything. It's kind of funny. The thing is, and the question that I raised in that video was, okay, so this one styrofoam cup, it's like this big. That void in the foundation is not going to make any failures arise, right? There's two things that I want to point out here. One, that does make you wonder how much garbage is in your foundation. How much stuff besides concrete and rebar and post tension cables is actually in my foundation, because that's and you're never going to know. Especially like that house was completed. Okay, if you're building a custom home and you had somebody pour that, and you found that before they moved on to anything else, you might say, "Hey, rip it up. I didn't ask you to put garbage in my foundation." Now, I don't know whether or not they would do it. It depends, or at least not for nothing. But either way, like when the house is completed, like that one, like you're not gonna do anything about it. But it makes you wonder, what's down there. And there's a certain part of that we have to accept. We either just buy the house and accept their warranty and guarantee that it's going to be fine, or we don't buy the house, right? I think those are the two options. But also, like, that was a blatant display of not even looking by the project manager, by the super, because honestly, like I said, they could have taken that perception that maybe my foundation was full of garbage, and they could have made that completely not like irrelevant. It wouldn't have been there, because if they would have walked the house and seen a styrofoam cup in the side, said, "Hey, that's got to come out and fill that hole with concrete," so we don't get asked these kind of questions. And
well,
so,
I've seen far too many times where when there's been a disaster, there's been a flood, there's been some kind of fire, and then they open up the walls and you see food wrappers, you see beer cans, you see all kinds of garbage. And I think that just tells you who's building your house and who the supervisor was on the job that was not paying attention to his crew.
Totally. Yes. It 100% does that. And I tell people a lot, because they ask me, like, who are good builders, who are bad builders. I mean, number one, I don't trash talk specific builders or names or anything like that. I just refuse to do that. People ask me all the time to call out certain builders in my videos, let them know who they are. Like, that's just not going to change things. That's just going to cause me all kinds of trouble. The fact of the matter is, every one of these builders, they build decent homes, and they have some bad homes too. Every one of them have a little bit of all that going on. When people ask me, what to look for in a builder or something like that, I tell them, if you're thinking about buying like a production home, go to the neighborhoods where these builders are building. Go to the neighborhood where you want to live, where you're thinking about buying, and try to find some houses that are under construction and see how clean they are. See how they keep their job site. If there's garbage sitting around and scrap and just, it's just a complete mess, that's going to tell you a little bit of something about the person managing that build site. If it's nice and clean and looks like they actually clean up at the end of the day, there's not tools and garbage and scrap sitting around, then you might have a pretty good person in charge, which lends itself to usually a better build, in my opinion.
Absolutely. The frustrating thing is there aren't many jobs. If you look at jobs and you go, okay, if they screw up, what are the ramifications of it? Obviously, if you have a bad surgeon, you can die on the job. If I was making a video for somebody and I had 20 seconds of black with no frame, nothing showing, how could I pass that on somebody? So I think builders really shoot themselves in the foot by not doing a good job of maintaining the job site and then making sure things are perfect, because this is our biggest investment. There's nothing more important to most people who buy a house. Yet I get the feeling it's not the most important thing to them. They're more concerned about making money. They're a business. I understand that. But it's a very personal business, and there's something missing there that we're the ones that always get screwed.
Yeah, no, I mean, that's very true. That's very true. And I mean, like, it's funny because I've been fortunate to, I don't know that other inspectors do this. And what I'm about to tell you, and the reason why is because I just don't think that they think about it or know about it or have the opportunity. But I've been fortunate by to be kind of brought into a group of people that are doing construction. Okay, you may know that I'm associated with a company called Sashco. They are a company that makes premium sealant caulking and stuff out of Colorado. Anyway, they have brought me to a few events, including the International Builder Show in Vegas back in January. Now, I'm pretty sure out of the thousands of people that were there, I'm the only home inspector that was there. It was a construction conference, and so here I am. I'm a home inspector, but they brought me in because I work with their company, and what a blessing and how cool it was to be able to to see all of these products and how they're used and all of these professionals and to hear them speak about better building practices and things, and then to walk away from that with relationships with these people that I didn't even know existed before. And now I can not only communicate with them, but I follow them on social media and can watch them work. And I can actually see that there are people out there that do care, because they're very transparent about it, right? They put it out there. They show you what they're doing in different ways. Everyone's got their own little different way of doing it on social media, but they show you what they're doing and how they do care. It's frustrating because, and I don't know where you're at. What part of the country are you in?
I'm in Tampa, Florida.
Okay, that's right. You did tell me that. And I don't know what is going on out there, but like here in Texas, general contractors do not need to be licensed. Okay. A home inspector needs a state issued license. And in order to get that, they have to have like 200 some odd hours of training. We have to pass the national and state home inspectors exam, which the national test has like a 55% failure rate. And we have to have a background check and that's all just to apply to the state for licensing, which they can turn you down for whatever reason, General contractors need nothing. They don't need a license. They don't need training. They don't need a background check. They don't need anything. And so anybody can be a general contractor. You actually have to have your own moral compass, like your own, you set the bar here, as far as being a general contractor. So,
and you can't sue them you because you can only go to arbitration. So right? If you have a problem with a builder, you can't get a jury and go into court and sue them. You have to go to arbitration, which is a roll of the dice how that's going to go. So there's not a lot of protection. So I always tell people too, don't go by, if the builder has 4 or 5 references, find the other people that aren't on his list that he's built houses for, because those are the ones that you want to talk to. If they're having a party to showcase their homes and the people that like them show up, who cares? That's like a comedian performing in front of his friends. Get in front of a bunch of other people, and then you'll find out what people really think about the job that they did.
Yeah. I mean, it's definitely frustrating. And don't get me wrong, in custom builds, I see a little bit better craftsmanship a lot of times. But it's funny because like in production, I tell people this a lot. In production builds, they have a way of, I guess, vetting their trades. And so their trades are usually doing things up to current standards and current codes. Now, a lot of times they're doing them incorrectly and not very well, and they don't care about what they're doing, about what they're throwing, how they're throwing these houses together. But they meet code or whatever. But those tradesmen, they, even all the way down, it seems like, I guess it's just a certain standard that most of these production builders have when they hire their trades. They're like, well, you need to work to these codes. The thing that you get with custom homes is you get a lot of people that really care a lot more. You get a lot more tradesmen that seem to be more like craftsmen. But the problem is you get the trades that have been doing it for 40 years and they still do it the way they did it 40 years ago. And so, you get things that aren't done up to current standards or current codes. And so, I inspect all those different types of houses. And so I inspect the ones that are up to current code, but are put together like garbage. And I inspect the ones that are, custom ones, and they are put together very well, but they don't meet current standards.
Well, I also think people should ask their builder, who are the subs that you're using for this project? Because I think a lot of builders will take the lowest bid on a project. I know they do that for driveways. They do that for landscaping. They do that for pools, all the things that are going to cause homeowners problems after 3 or 4 years. And so I think it's a fair question to ask them, who are the subs you're using? And then check them out. Because as I've had problems with houses that I've bought, and then the repair people come out, they go, oh, that's the worst electric company in the world. Oh, I would never use that pool builder. Oh, that guy that did your driveway is now in jail. I mean, you have to ask these questions, because if you don't, you're going to get screwed.
Yeah. No, I think that's a good idea. At first I was thinking to myself, well, what are they going to do with that information? But yeah, if they know who they're using, they can look them up and see how they feel about them. Yeah, I mean, that's definitely something that could be happening. But what's happening out here, really more than anything, is new construction, like production building. I don't think you're going to get many answers asking anybody that kind of question, because the people selling the houses have no idea. And they don't like to put you in contact with anybody that's actually doing the construction or anything. There's a certain builder out here, massive builder. They don't even walk the houses with the client when they're done. They hire out another company to do that. Like, they don't even have a representative from their company walk the completed house with the buyer. They sub that out to another company.
We have to stop rewarding companies like that. That, to me, that's just unbelievable if you won't stand behind it. I mean, I can tell you, with some of the houses I've lived in, I never met the person in charge, and I kick myself for that. And I think a lot of it is the real estate market is so competitive, and we're all saying, if I don't take this house, somebody else is going to buy it. So you're afraid to miss out. I think a lot of people would be better off missing out.
Sometimes. But see, this is where I try to keep this in mind. The problem is that people already have an emotional investment in the home at that point. Once they're already there, there's an emotional investment. And that is strong. Like, that is something that's really hard to walk away from. The best thing I think people can do is, it's hard because this can be just as bad as inspectors, but representation, a realtor can be a really good tool. Can also be a bad tool. So I mean, just like home inspectors, right? And just like you're talking about vetting people, like, you got to vet your inspectors. You need to vet your realtors. I really strongly believe there's people that just can't stand realtors. And I don't say this because I have family members that are realtors. I'm saying this because I strongly believe that true good representation can really make a big difference with your home purchase, right? And I mean, they can also help manage, if they're really good at their job, then they know when that emotional investment is gonna take place. They know when that switch is gonna get flipped, and they can manage that a little bit, right? Ask the right questions before that happens, so that they can figure out all of the stuff that might change your mind before you get emotionally invested in this home. I mean, you just have to talk to realtors and hire somebody that has the experience to be able to do that for you.
Yeah, somebody that's going to be honest and tell you. I mean, we had our realtor took us to this one house, and she said it was in a great area, and so some people were walking by as we were looking at it, and I asked the guy, what happens in this neighborhood when it rains? He goes, you do not want to buy that house. The water comes up to the front door every time it rains. Now, the realtor didn't know that. She didn't tell us that. So I think, I'm not blaming other people for my problems. I get mad at myself because I choose crummy builders. I choose realtors that don't give us enough information. And it's really, we're the last line of defense. If we don't do the work, nobody's going to say, cry me a river, right? It's just, you live, you learn. And I think I've lived through a lot of things and learned a lot. So my goal is to help people avoid those problems. So with that in mind, and looking at what you do, I love it in your video when you say it's not supposed to do that. What are some of the most outrageous things you've seen?
Oof, okay. So really, I get asked this question every now and again. It's funny. I don't know why I have to think about it every time, but there is one thing particular that I've seen, unfortunately, more than once, that just really does blow my mind. And I've seen at least twice a functioning gas fireplace in a house where the chimney was capped off in the attic. Well, one of them was capped off in the attic. One of them went up, and this was a custom home, and it was like it went up, and they realized that they didn't have clearance for everything, and so they just put a metal cap on it in the chimney, in the attic, and it's just like that does not exhaust to the outside anymore at all. It just is literally capped off. Yet it was functioning, like you could light it with gas. Also, similar situation. This is one of those heatilator systems with like the glass enclosure and everything. Now, these are vented a little bit differently. Sometimes they can go up the side wall, or sometimes they can go up. This one went up through a chimney. It had a stucco veneer on the chimney, and there was no hole in it. There was nothing. It was just sealed. I don't know what they were thinking. It was completely sealed off. I took all of these drone shots because I couldn't get on the roof in that one little area. And so I took all these drone shots above it, around it, under it. There was no ventilation whatsoever. I told the realtor, she didn't believe me, but it was just like, well, I mean, this is what's going on. I mean, look at it. And that blew my mind. And then it's funny because it's in a part of town where I kind of drive down. It was across a lake. But it's like right on the edge of a main drag. And so I drive by the house all the time. And I guess the people bought the house. I don't know, but not too long after my inspection, a silver chimney flue came out of the top of that stucco veneer. And you could really see they didn't paint it or anything. So you can really see it from across the lake on the main drag. And every time I drove by, I thought about that. That blows my mind. I mean, that's legitimately dangerous, right? I've also seen some just nightmare electrical stuff, but I mean, I can kind of go on and on. I've seen some pretty gnarly properties.
I got one for you. When we were moving into our house, we wanted to put a water filtration system under the kitchen sink, and normally from the kitchen sink they run something to where the refrigerator is going to be. And I had somebody tell me, they forgot to do that, and I called the builder, and he goes, "Oops, we're really sorry, we didn't do that." So I had a water guy come out that was selling a filtration system, and he tested all the lines. And he found out that it was run, that there was a line there, and now we get filtered water in our refrigerator. But that's the thing a lot of people don't think about. It's like they get one shot to get that. They're not going to tear the floor up, especially if it's a concrete foundation. When they screw that up, you really have to be on top of everything during the build process to catch things that they can't fix.
Where was the line?
The line was underneath the sink. There was an extra line there, but the builder didn't even know about it. He thought they just messed up and it wasn't there.
Yeah.
And it was there. So
yeah. So I did this. Just reminds me. I mean, like it's just the stuff like this isn't dangerous, but I'm doing this new construction house about a year ago now, and the guy's doing this really nice big house, and he's buying the same house as what the model house is, and I guess there's an upgrade where this part of your kitchen could have a coffee bar. Was what they call it, a coffee bar. And what they did was they enclosed part of your what would be like the open part of your countertop, and then you had the bottom side of your cabinets. That was like enclosed now, and you had these doors that would open up and slide in, and you had your coffee maker and everything right there, and you could kind of close it up, right? And so it was like an upgrade that he paid for this coffee bar. And so he asked mind you, this is almost going to seem unrelated, but he had some lighting right above his kitchen island. These are right across from one another. Kitchen island was straight. They make some of them that are kind of curved, and this one was straight. Well, the lights were put at like round. They had 3 pendant lights, and they were put like at a radius. They were installed at a radius. Yet he had a straight countertop, and so it looked really odd and weird. You would do that if you had a rounded face of the countertop. I said to him, well, what's up with this? And he goes, yeah, they're supposed to fix that for me, but it was like they said, well, we can fix it if you want to, And it's like, what do you mean if I want to? Like, it's completely wrong. Like, you didn't do it right. And so they were going to fix it. But then he goes, well, let me ask you something else, because I pay, and mind you, I had not even started the inspection yet. He goes, so I hadn't looked around, but he goes, I paid for this coffee bar over here, and there's no outlet in it. And so I look, and it's like you open up the doors, and there's just cabinetry. There's just cabinetry behind there and no outlet where you can plug in a coffee maker. He goes, they're kind of giving me a little bit of pushback as to whether or not, the outlet should be there. And they're almost like weighing like whether or not they were going to either put an outlet in or fix these pendant lights that were hanging up here. And I'm like, what, man? They got to do both. Like, what are you talking about? And so after a couple of minutes, I was like, wait a minute. This and he had already talked to his builder about this, right? And this guy he just wasn't confident with his answers. But I said, wait a minute, this is in your kitchen. Like, you're supposed to have an outlet every 2 feet. Like, I bet there's outlets back there, but they're just behind the cabinetry. I guarantee that, like, there's no way you got the final build in a production build house and you don't have outlets on a part of your kitchen countertop. Like, that doesn't meet code. There's no way. I bet it's back there, and the guy doesn't know any better. So anyway, before I finished up the inspection, the builder called, and he goes, "Hey man, I got good news. We're gonna fix your lights, but I talked to my boss, and he says there actually are outlets back there, but they're just behind the cabinetry." And he goes, "Yeah, actually, that's what the inspector just told me." But yeah, it was funny. Like, that guy didn't even know that. He doesn't know the code. He doesn't know what he's putting together. He's just running his mouth. And was bartering with the guy whether or not they were going to hang his pendant lights correctly or install an outlet that was already actually there. And they messed up whenever they put in the cabinetry. It's ridiculous.
That's insane. I got another one that maybe it's happened to you where the house is pre-wired for speakers around the house and a surround system and all that stuff, and they run the wires to a closet. In our house, they ran it to the laundry room. But the area that they have it, you couldn't put any equipment in to actually run it. You could maybe put in one little satellite box, but you couldn't put in all the other equipment that you needed to do. So we had to have somebody come in and knock out a whole section and make it much bigger, because we assume that the builder thinks about that stuff. It's like, well, they're doing all this. Where are they going to put that? You can't assume anything when you're building a house, can you?
You can't. I actually did a house very recently where it couldn't be any more clear when you go in the game room that they misplaced some stuff in the attic and they were unable to put the attic access where it was supposed to go. So they had to move it. And where they moved it to, this is the game room. So, like, if you imagine it's a box, right? It's kind of like a square box. So there's a light right in the middle, a light box right in the middle where you can hang a pendant or a light fixture from, which they had a light fixture there. And then between there and the wall is where the attic access was. And that's right above where the couch is. Okay, where you would typically put a couch. Like, I don't know how to explain it, but it's a game room where, like, if you're going to put seating there, that's where the seating would go, and it's the only place the seating would go is right there, because there's doors or a stairway or something everywhere else. And so now, not only to pull down the attic access, do you have to, like, move a piece of furniture out of the way to be able to get, you either have to move the couch or you can only bring the attic access down partially and then get another ladder to kind of climb up it. Furthermore, you don't have enough room for a ceiling fan. So the clients, the homeowners, they really wanted a ceiling. They actually paid the builder for a ceiling fan. They wanted a ceiling fan there. And I think they ended up having to take the one down because they had to get one that's tiny. All they asked the builder to do was to move the box where the ceiling fan was over, because you couldn't get a fan with any blades and actually pull down the attic access. Forget the couch situation. You can't pull it down if you had a fan, and they paid for a fan. And so they searched high and wide, and they finally found a fan. I'm not kidding. It's like 1 foot long. It's like this big. The blades on it are like 6 inches each, and it's in this pretty large room, and all they had to do was move this light box over. Now, granted, they didn't know this at the time, but it's like I started looking and I go, I bet you if you walk into any other one of these model homes that the same floor plan, you'll find that the attic access is in a different location. They go, actually, we walked one when we were getting this one and we noticed it was in another area. I said, that's because they messed up. They put the AC in an area where they ended up not being able to put the attic access where it's supposed to go. So they put it somewhere else. And then you paid for a ceiling fan, and all you asked them to do to solve the situation was to move it over so you could have an actual ceiling fan in the room. And they refused to do it. I said, don't take no for an answer, because moving that costs next to nothing. And you paid for a ceiling fan, but yet you can't even actually have one. and they're the ones that messed this up to begin with. But it's completely ridiculous.
And you got to catch that stuff before you close, because once they have your money, it's very hard to get them to do that kind of stuff. Another thing I tell people they need to do is walk around the house into rooms that are away from where the main air conditioning unit is, and make sure they put enough return airs in, because a lot of times once you get there, you buy the house in the winter and now it's summer and you have a room that's 4 or 5 degrees warmer than other rooms. And I had an AC guy come in and he said, well, there's not enough return air. There's no way that room's ever going to cool. So I had to put a split system air conditioner in my office just because somebody didn't do their job right. And we just keep rewarding these knuckleheads, and it drives me crazy. It's amazing I haven't pulled out all my hair.
I told these people with that ceiling fan, not to stay on that, but I told them, I said, look, you measure your room and go online and see what suggested size ceiling fan it has for that room. And then when you find that, show that to them and say, how am I supposed to put the right size ceiling fan in this room when you have this in the spot that it's at? And so hopefully they got that changed. But I like to I try not to blow things out of proportion, but I don't think we need to take no for an answer, because the builder loves to say no. They love to deflect. They love to say that something's not their responsibility. I put up a video the other day about some poor drainage in a house, in between houses. Now, if you look in the video, there's a very obvious visual reference that the house next door is a good 6 inches higher than the house I was inspecting. I mean, we've got like this going on. We don't have a retaining wall or any type of additional drainage for any water. We just have this going on, and then they have somewhat of a swale. We have this going down here like this, and then this going down like this. And so we've got a lot of extra water being, collected right there in between the houses, which is a real common problem. I think it is where you are too, but it's a real common problem in subdivisions here, because they build houses so close together. They're not going to change that, okay? But they build houses really close together, and it doesn't allow them to give the proper drainage that's needed, 6 inches over 10 feet. They don't even have 10 feet to work with. And so they put in these swales to try to get water to go around the house and out to the street or wherever the drainage is. But it's not like they have any real tools and measurement that they do. They just kind of eyeball it and like, yeah, that looks about right. And they don't get it right. And oftentimes that grading gets, even if they did attempt to get it right, the grading gets hammered by weather or equipment before they even throw down the sod. And the people that come in and throw down the sod, they don't care. They just put the grass down. And so you end up with these areas that retain water. This doesn't, the one in the video doesn't really stress me out, like in terms of like structural problems, because of course holding moisture is going to possibly cause some differential settlement and stuff, especially on our soil. But it's far enough away that doesn't really bother me, but it's going to be annoying. It's going to be hard to mow. There's standing water. And when I was there, my videos, I usually record them and I post them like 1-2 months after the transaction is complete. And so sometimes people turn around and ask me a question about it, and I don't know the answer. But in the video, I stated that it rained the previous day. I get that the builders say that water, it can stay there for up to 48 hours. But I don't like that. It should go away. There's no reason why it should be standing there when it's not standing anywhere else. Why do we have ponding water in this one spot whenever it's nowhere else? That means there's a problem with this one spot. And so anyway, I had somebody that clearly a builder, and I get internet trolls constantly that just say ridiculous things to me, but clearly this guy either is a builder, works for a builder, but he just had all of the same deflection stuff. He said, well, you said it rained, but how soon did it rain? You didn't say anything about the sprinklers. I can see both houses have a sprinkler system. How often are they running their sprinklers? And it's like, man, you sound exactly like builders whenever these buyers have these issues. I do 1 month or 11-month warranty inspections on these homes, and I run into these people that have had this problem for a year, and they tell me the stories. They're like, and trust me, because I've lived it. I've experienced this exact same thing with 2 different builders on 2 new construction houses that I purchased. So I know it that way. But also these people tell me that, we've told our builder about this a bunch. We've sent them pictures. They told us it was our sprinkler system, so we stopped running it so much. They told us it was our neighbor's sprinkler system, so we got together. And neither one of us have ran our sprinkler systems in a month, And they like, these are the type of stories that I hear, and it's like, but we're still having problems, and we're trying to get them to do something about it and getting pushback. These builders, they just want to I mean, I say builders. I don't think it's. I think what it is it's just a money thing, right? The person at the top just says spend as little as you can,
Hmm.
and so that just keeps trickling down. And so when it gets all the way down, because the person that's actually in charge of the build of your house is nowhere close to anything high up. They're just taking orders, and so their job literally is to try to talk their way out of spending more money as
Well, you just
often as
have,
possible.
yeah. And I guess our only hope is that they have some pride in what they're doing, but ultimately we end up rewarding builders for doing things that are pretty mediocre, like that fan story you told. No matter what fan they put up there, it's not going to be flush center in the middle of the room, which would drive me up the wall. So
Yeah.
my question to you is, when you put out stuff like you do, you're going to get people that tell you you're whining, you're complaining, there are worse things in life. I'd say to them, you are a troll, because the reality is that's my house. I paid good money for it. Why can I not demand perfection? Why is that wrong to expect it to be done right?
Yeah, and it's not. And that's the thing. Like I think you have to think, especially because I think mostly what we're talking about here is construction, right? New construction, really. I think um while I inspect all kinds of homes from old, very old all the way up to brand new ones, it's that new construction stuff. We're paying a lot of money for this. And there is an expectation for it to be, as close to perfect as possible. And yeah, I mean, it does blow my mind what they seemingly are trying to get away with. Um, because people are spending so much money to buy these homes and they're not exactly getting what they're paying for a lot.
No, they're not. Now, I was just traveling with my family in Italy on vacation, and we go into these old churches and old buildings with these perfect rounded arches that they could not in any way have had the same kind of equipment that we have available today. When I walk around my neighborhood and when I look in houses that I've lived in, every arch is a little crooked. They're a little lopsided. Nobody seems to know how to do that. Do you see stuff like that when you're on a house? Because that drives me crazy if an arch is crooked or the depth of it is wrong as you walk through it. When you're walking through Italy with people that built this thing 500 years ago and it's perfect.
Yeah, man. It's funny. Back to my buddy Chris Murphy. He said something to me a long time ago. We were talking about new construction. We were talking about warranties, and the common new construction warranty is, a year bumper to bumper, sort of. 2 years on HVAC, 2 years electrical, I think, but really it's 10 years on your structure. Structural warranty is for 10 years. And that sounds good. They use it as a selling point, right? It's like, hey, we guarantee your foundation for 10 years. And that really sounds good, right? I said, wow, man, 10 years. I mean, it should be fine, right? But it's like, when you really look at that, it's like we have structures that have been built and constructed for ages that are still just fine. And the builder's like, we got you for 10 years. And it's like 10 years? I mean, you got a 30-year mortgage probably, you know what I mean? Like, and they're not even guaranteeing your foundation will make it through till you can pay the place off. They don't have that. After 10 years, they're out.
Yeah.
And
I mean, I always
when you
say
think
too,
about
when you hear a builder say built to code, I've talked to architects that say a builder should be building for what's coming up in the future, that building to code is the minimum. So if that's what they're touting, you're buying the minimum.
Yes, it is. A friend, kind of a friend of mine, said something about he was getting a new construction house built. Is in another part of the country. I couldn't inspect it or anything, but he was like, "Yeah, code is to keep your house from falling apart or burning down." Like I'm looking for a little bit better than that, But yeah, it's the someone else explained it as the least you can legally do, to build a house. And it's true. I mean, it's the thing is people get wrapped up in code. Code's there for a reason. Okay. I'm not a code inspector. I do know code. I had to learn a ton of code to be able to pass the National Home Inspector's exam. That's why it's so difficult. And yeah, but my inspections are actually not code based in code. I use some code in my inspections, but I don't quote it a lot. I use code to help me determine whether things are deficient or right. But the thing is code is like a general rule when you don't have any other rules. But manufacturer's installation instructions go before code every single time. So it doesn't matter if your dryer, a dryer duct is supposed to be made out of, smooth metal duct all the way from the connection point all the way to the exterior of the house. If the dryer manufacturer says we want you to use paper coated ceramic duct and we want it to make an S pattern and swing right back in and terminate into a bathroom, like that's what that is ridiculous. But I mean, like, if that's what the manufacturer's instructions say, then the code doesn't matter. That's what you follow, and that's never the case, by the way. It's always more strict. That's the deal. That's the thing. It's always a more strict rule, and so you go by what the manufacturer's installation is, because that is the most important thing. The people that know their product and how it works and how it's supposed to function. Code is just a general rule for when that stuff doesn't exist.
I like the thing. There was a quote in my documentary film, The Last House Standing, we used from Hammurabi's code from the old days, that if a builder built a house that resulted in the death of the person living in it, the builder was put to death. And the bottom line of that is skin in the game.
Yeah.
What is the skin in the game that the builders have? Now, I'm not suggesting anybody be put to death by any means,
right, yeah.
But somebody should sure rough them up a little bit in court or something. Right. I just don't think they should get away with what they get away with. And people who get mad at me or get mad at you for complaining about it, I think we're trying to look out for people. I don't want people to experience all the baloney that I've experienced.
No, definitely. I mean, look, I'm not even necessarily sure this is why I got into home inspection. I'm not sure if this is the reason why I was attracted to it when I found out about it. But what I get out of it now is the gratification of helping people. It's my favorite part of the job. And it actually bites me in the ass all the time, because I end up spending way too much time with people and trying to explain it and make sure that they understand it. It makes me late to inspections sometimes, because I usually do 2 a day, and the person will usually show up at the end of the first one, and maybe I tell them something that's going on with the house, and they look at me with a real glazed over look. Well, I got to go in, because people will focus. People, especially people buying a house, don't know much about a house. They'll focus in on something that doesn't really matter, and then just like glaze over when I start talking about things that actually really do matter. And so, I spend some time trying to make sure that people do understand this. I think one of the things that's made my company so successful is my customer service. And that's something I brought with me from my previous employment. But the thing is, I love helping people. I really do. And it bums me out whenever, like this past week, I had a couple of inspections that had to postpone. And one of them that had to postpone 2 times right in a row. It was a new construction house, and they just couldn't get it ready. This bums me out, because obviously if I have to postpone an inspection, and especially when it's last minute like it was, I usually don't have a chance to fill it. So I'm just out the money, period. And so that stinks. But I usually just try to take it with a grain of salt, because I work a lot. And so when I get a little bit of time off, I just roll with it, And then it happened again, and then that hurt. But what really bums me out more than the loss of money? It's the I now, that's a postpone, right? So postponed 2 times. So that was 3 spots that I had to dedicate to this one house. So that's at least 2 people that I'm not going to get to help now. 2 people that need a home inspector that now they're going to have to get somebody else. And I'm not worried about losing business to my competition. I'm worried about what my competition is going to, how well they're going to help these people, what they're bringing to the table, and how well they're going to perform the inspection. Because let me tell you, I've seen some of these other inspections that people are sending, and man, I started working for myself. I set the bar for myself. And I mean, I look now at some of the inspection reports that are coming out. I see them every once in a while, and I'm just like, I can't believe it bothers me that people are not inspecting to the level that I am. I'm not trying to say that I'm the best, but I want people to do their very best, and I want people to trust that their home inspector will do the very best. And it bums me out when I see people that have hired somebody that's not giving it their all. I am, and I just want to be able to help as many people as possible. So it bums me out whenever I can. So yeah, helping people. I don't think that's a question you asked, but that is my favorite part of the job, is helping people and helping them know more about their house, learn about their house, learn why they may or may want to either consider getting the house or getting another house, something like that.
I hope you never get away from the way you're doing it, because you bring something to your job that shows in your videos and it shows in how you're talking right now that you obviously care. And I think caring is something that's missing in so many professions now, where people do the job, they do the minimum. And as the home buyers, we are the ones that pay the price for it. If something's a problem when you buy the house, it's probably going to be a problem when you go to sell it to somebody else. So the fact that somebody didn't care early on in the process just trickles down, and then we're the ones that get hammered by it. And I'm just tired of seeing it happen. And I want people to wake up and know things to look for, because as great as you are, somebody's not going to get you for their inspection. At least they'll know if the guy went through the motions. They'll know if they checked everything, because there should be certain things you should look for in every house. So as we put a button on this and wrap it up, what would you say to somebody? I'm a home buyer. Whether it's new or an existing stock house. What are the key things that I should be thinking about when I'm going through that house?
Yeah, I think number one, I want to say, and I tell this to people a lot: get a home inspector for one. Like that is one thing that you just really should do. You're putting a lot of money into purchasing this property. A home inspection is a few $100s. It's not that bad. Get a home inspector. I'm not saying hire me. People in my area, if I can help you, great. But just get a home inspector. Even the ones that I'm talking about that I wish would do a better job, they at least are bringing some value to the table. I'm telling you, they're probably still worth what you're paying. New construction, obviously.
It could be anything. Just if you're walking into that house, and new construction obviously is a problem. But like, I look for things like, is the floor squared off? Did they narrow down tiles when they were getting to the end on the backsplash on the floor? Are the shelves crooked? I look for things because to me, it points out there was no attention to what was going on here. I don't know anything about electrical. I don't know anything about gas and stuff like that. So I'm looking for cosmetic, obvious things that to me show good craftsmanship or bad craftsmanship. Is that a misguided thing to do?
Yeah, no, I think it's a great thing to do. It's just I think it worries me, like, because I walk into a home sometimes and they might have like a bowed wall. Oftentimes you look down the hallway and you can tell that they just, the wall is kind of wavy. What are you going to do if you find something like that? What are you going to do? If I say, hey, look for that kind of stuff, what's that gonna do? Are you look for? Are you going to walk away from the house? Because it's probably not a big deal, but for cosmetically, it's kind of a big deal. I think it all goes back to. I think what you're better off. I think the better way to answer this question is, a clean job site all the way through is very important. And that can let you know that you have somebody that actually did care about managing, and not just in the beginning. There's no trash in your footings, no trash in your foundation. They clean up on a daily or weekly basis. There's not food trash sitting around or whatever. Go up in your attic, see if you got a bunch of beer cans sitting around. Because, man, I found a bunch of those. But always clean. They clean the house and have people in there cleaning things up and cleaning up after themselves during the build process all the way to the end. I think that says a lot. Also, I think the order of things. I think this is more important to me than answering the question is like stuff that you can see, because I want you to hire a home inspector to find the stuff you can't see. And if you can see it, then you can put some blue tape on it and make them fix it. But the order of things, communication, and the order of things. If the builder says we are getting cabinetry in on X date, and it's not there, and then or everything, because it seems like that's the whole deal. Like they never can be on time with anything. The disorganization, and it's like communication. Like if if they can communicate to you, proper dates instead of just telling you a date that you want to hear. I think these are all signs to me that I think we should consider. If you're getting talked in a circle, or if you can actually communicate with these people to try to know if they're on point, if they're going to stay on point. It's hard, man. I mean, look, the fact of the matter is, this is an exciting process. Buying a new construction house and watching it be built is exciting, but it is frustrating as all get out. And you really get to see how the sausage is made, and it's not oftentimes very pretty.
Exactly. I mean, people have to not be afraid to ask questions. And if you don't have the access where they seem willing to answer the questions, I think it's a very frustrating process. Like I say, I've never had a good experience. So I don't know what that's like, but most of the people I know, they're not hanging out with their builder. They don't, I don't know most people that come away going, oh, it's the greatest guy ever, or gal. I love them, and they're perfect.
That's just the whole industry. I mean, like, it's funny because when people get pools made, everyone I know that ever has a pool made, they hate their pool guy. I mean, every time. Yeah, I walk into these houses, beautiful pool. Do you recommend your pool guy? No, I'd never recommend it. And that's pretty much everything. You get a patio cover built in your backyard. By the time you're in at the end of that thing, like, everyone hates their contractor at the end of every single job. It's the same way for building an entire house too. But yeah, it's just the industry. And I think it's just what happens is, especially with like these single jobs, these pools and stuff like that, when things start narrowing down, they give you a lot of attention in the beginning, and then when things start narrowing down, they have other jobs and they have to start focusing on the next job. And so you start to feel slighted before your project is complete, or something like that. And people always, that's at the end is when all the stuff starts showing up, that you start seeing all the stuff that's wrong towards the end. And they're tired of you, you're tired of them, you're tired of them being in your backyard and having everything all tore up, and you're ready for it to be over. And it's frustrating.
Yeah, I've told this story before. We had a pool guy that put in bar stools, and he put them too close to the wall, and we caught that. And he goes, "Oh, when you're wet in the pool, you'll fit right in there." And we just laughed. I mean, really, we have to get wet and get in the pool, and we can squeeze in like a tight pair of pants. So they had to rip them out and put them in again. But you really, I think the takeaway, and you probably, I know you have to agree with this, is you have to watch everything. You really have to be on your game, and then get a great inspector to make sure that you were.
Yeah. And I mean, inspections can happen. I do pre-pour inspections before they pour the concrete. I do pre-drywall inspections before they put in insulation and drywall, and I do final inspections, then 11-month warranty inspection. But that's the three prior to purchase. I mean, if you can get them all three, I really suggest it. They're never. I think it's also like it needs to be, managing expectations is huge. It needs to be mentioned that we should, although perfect is the goal, that needs to be everybody's goal. But we shouldn't expect everything to be 100% perfect. Every inspection and everything we call out and everything is just a step to try to get it closer to perfect. And I wouldn't suggest, people ask all the time, like, how often should I get inspections? I do not suggest getting inspections, just for anyone that's listening, in between those three stages. Prior to the pour, right before the concrete's poured, great. But if you get one in between then and before they put up drywall, your inspector is just going to be looking at things that they haven't finished yet. You actually do have to give them time to get to a certain point where everything can be looked at and say, okay, this needs to change and this needs to change. You need to fix this, repair this before moving on. But you don't want someone, if you get an inspector there too early, they're going to go in there, they're going to give you a 100-page report of a whole bunch of things that just haven't been done yet. And that's of zero value to you. None.
Yeah, no, that's great advice, because it's like if I show a client a video too early in the process, I don't need them seeing the obvious mistakes that I'm going to fix. But
yeah,
you just want to know that there's some pride involved and that they actually care, and that's what I love about your videos. So, Matt, I'm going to put all your links to where people can follow you. I know you just started on TikTok. That's a tough medium to grow in. I mean, you're killing it on Instagram. TikTok's tough.
I don't know. I mean, yeah, it actually has been. I mean, I've only been on like 2 weeks, but I have found it a little bit harder to gain some traction in there, or harder than I thought it was going to be, because I thought I could use my momentum from Instagram. that hasn't really shown itself to work as well. I'm not sure I'm giving it a whole lot of effort, to be quite honest with you. But I think like there's several folks that did blow up on Instagram or on TikTok about the time I was blowing up on Instagram, and so everyone's kind of got their own world. I'm just kind of trying to dip my toes in and see what's going on out there. But yeah, I'm new to TikTok, but I'm putting everything out there on all platforms, and I'm trying to do it a little bit different and try to cater material for each platform. At least some of the time, I'm trying to do things just a little bit different on each one, because each one kind of calls for different types of content.
Absolutely. Well, I'm not going to give you advice on what to do on TikTok because I don't think you want to make those kind of videos, but you're killing it on Instagram and I love your videos. I'm a big fan and I appreciate you making time for me today. Thank you so much.
Yeah, no, I'm sorry it's taking me so long to find. I just, man, when I'm not doing inspections, I'm doing stuff with the family or building stuff in my garage and stuff. And so, yeah, it is tough to find the time. But thanks for being patient. I do love doing this stuff and I wanted to do it.
All right. Thanks, Matt.
Hey, can I mention one thing real quick?
Oh, absolutely.
I actually have I'm growing my team. I right now I've been a single man operation since 2017 when I started my company. And as of this coming Wednesday, the day after tomorrow, I have another inspector that is joining my team. I'm very excited about this. This is just a step in the direction that I really need to take. I try my best to put out videos that help inspectors. I get a lot of inspectors that ask me for help. I also have a subscription platform on Instagram that is a little bit more catered towards training inspectors. And I try to lend my knowledge wherever I can because I want better inspectors out there. But the one thing I haven't done yet is bring someone in on my team and train them to do the job the way that I do it. And I am actually taking that step, and somebody is starting Wednesday to be my first inspector. And so I'm super excited about that. So here pretty soon, within the next couple of months, he's just going to be kind of observing for a little while and kind of learning. But in the next couple of months, I'm probably going to have another inspector out there. And so
awesome. That's great to hear. If you can clone yourself, because you know, but I hope you knock that one out of the park too. Thanks, Matt.
All right. Thank you. Great talking to you, George.
Thank you so much for joining me on this week's Tell Us How to Make It Better podcast. All the links to follow Matthew are in the show notes, and there's also a link to a contact form that goes directly to me. If you have problems with your house, good or bad, I'd love to hear from you. Maybe have you as a guest on an upcoming episode. And if you enjoyed what you were listening to today, please become a subscriber so you don't miss an episode. A new one comes out every Tuesday. Thank you so much for listening. See you next time.